Hello, I'm Jodi, Cilley, founder of the Film Consortium San Diego and a member of the GI Film Festival San Diego Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for joining us for our local film pairing, Actions Speak Louder Than Medals and Hun Pilots. I'm joined today by filmmakers from both films, John Mollison, director of Actions Speak Louder Than Medals, and Mark Viscara, director of Hun Pilots. And finally, we're also honored to have Vietnam War veteran, author, and expert on Air Force pilot experiences in Vietnam, Colonel Victor Viscarra. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating in the GI Film Festival, and thank you to our audience. If you're out there watching this, if you have any questions, make sure you scroll down below the viewer to enter any questions that you have. So we'll start the Q&A now. John just had a question for you to start out. Royce is a bit of a legend here quite a bit of a legend here in San Diego. How did you come to learn of his story, and what made you decide to document it through film?
Well, not only is Royce a legend in San Diego, Royce is a legend in his home state of South Dakota. I'm a South Dakotan, and our state is small, and we don't have a lot of people, but there's one great thing that we have in our culture is that we're close-knit. And Royce's story resonates so well with us. And when I'm talking about us, I'm talking about all Dakotans, Minnesotans, every upper Midwesterner, because he embodies the values and the character that we all want to ascribe and that we've all grown up around in our, upper Midwest roots. And that is the appeal to Royce. When we found out that this is a South Dakotan that made this momentous part of history, part of it was, well, of course, but on the other part of it was, we gotta bring him in and give him some of our honor.
How has the reaction to this film been then in his own community? In your
terrific, just absolutely cool. There's an upswell of interest and support in seeing that Royce's service get the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I can tell you, speaking as just one of many South Dakotans that appreciate his help, I mean, it's captivated our congressional delegation, it's captivated our governor, and it's captivated the rest of the state.
Yeah, I was actually reading about that as well in preparation for today, and seems definitely something that should happen, and I love that people are leading that effort. Thank you. We'll come back to you in a few minutes with some questions. Mark, welcome back to the GI Film Festival San Diego. This must feel like a second home to you by now.
Yes, it does. Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, Jodi.
Oh, well, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all these films that you've made. And this must be your fourth or fifth film to be featured. And I know you've been busy on several more films. First of all, congratulations. And secondly, why are films like Hun Pilots and the other film? Why do you work on these films? Why do you do this?
Well, because they're good. They're good stories. No, I belong to veterans groups. My dad, as soon as I retired, he goes, "You gotta come with me on veterans groups." And I was the baby at these veterans groups, and and I'm 61 years old, and I'm the baby. So you can see the age difference there. But I'd be listening to these guys' stories. From World War II to Korea to Vietnam. And I was just mesmerized by the stories. And I said, I got to make movies about these guys, because, no one's immortal. Everyone's got to play the game of life. And when you're like in your 90s, I'd say you're in the fourth quarter. So we got to get these guys out there and document their stories so their stories live on forever. And I tell you, they're just incredible stories.
Yeah, you're definitely documenting stories that otherwise would be lost. One thing you said that really struck me is you said the Vietnam War was misreported then and misremembered now. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, because I grew up in the 60s and watching the news and then saying goodbye to my dad when he'd ship off to war, and he was there several times. And it just shows you how much time has changed. I remember the only way I could communicate with my dad was we would make the little tapes,
Yeah.
little tapes, and we'd send them, and then we couldn't wait to hear back from him. So, you know, and so I really did have the inside information on what was really going on, and it wasn't what was being reported. And then when he came back, he'd tell me all the stories, and so it's, again, it's just, it wasn't reported right, and it's not remembered now of what these guys did, and you know, how much they. You're better to talk to him about this than I am. It's just no way. You know, if you're going to fight a war, win the damn war. Don't tie the warriors' arms behind the back. Just don't get in. Don't go to war if you're not going to let them fight, because you're just sending guys to the graves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I'm pretty bitter about it, you know, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of my dad's friends did not come back, and you know, I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something on that, Colonel?
Well, I just want to add that unfortunately, the Vietnam War was one of the most restrictive wars run by politicians. And like Mark mentioned, we felt like we were fighting with both hands tied behind our backs. We had so many limitations. There's no way we could win. And if you go as a warrior, I always believe if you're going to go in and sacrifice America's blood, you go in there and get it over with as quickly as possible, you know, and have an objective of winning, or don't get involved.
Absolutely. It's a really good point, and something we've discussed before on the stage, similar to this with the GI Film Festival. So I love that you're still out there telling these stories. So you've published 2 books on your experiences in the Vietnam War, and both have been developed into documentary films. What are some other insights you'd like to share with audiences about your experience in the war?
Well, unfortunately, you know, time marches on. I would love to write another book, but I don't think marriage would survive because computers and I don't get along. And when I'm writing a book, there's more cussing than writing. So the wife said, well, when I talk about writing a 3rd book, the wife says, no, you're better off not doing it.
Well, I'm sure you'd have another documentary in your future if you do move.
Yeah.
Right. For John, what's the message you want to get out with this film? What was, if you had one thing the audiences took from this film, what would that be?
I would bring people to listen to how Royce communicated himself. He doesn't use a lot of the word I pronoun. Royce has a presence about him that thinks about the other guy, the bigger picture. There's a humility about Royce Williams that I think the rest of the world can use as an example. Right now, we have generations of people who are very much all about self-promotion. And what Royce's promotion is about is the basics of duty, honor, and country. His humility comes through so clearly. I think he's a brilliant example of what that kind of humility can look like. I mean, you think about it, the guy took on 7 MiGs, and he was in a 1st generation fighter against Russian flown PVO MiG-15s, a 2nd generation fighter, and he held his own and prevailed. And yet he was content to simply tell his wife, yeah, that was me, only after he had done his duty by keeping his mouth shut. I think that kind of humility and that kind of sense of purpose before self is something that our culture needs to listen more to.
That is an exceptional point. I would agree. I think this self before others and the sense of honor is something we've lost in the current generation, including my own, I would say, in current generation. So I really appreciate that. What about you, Mark? Someone could leave, what was the message you would like people to leave your film with?
Just to remember the veterans that fought and died. A lot of times people think that we in the military we want to go fight. No, we want to serve our country. We want to defend this great country at all costs, and we're willing to go die for this country, and some of the, some of our friends, and especially my dad's friends, they didn't return, or or they were captured and tortured for 6-7 years. So I just want people to get a better appreciation of the cost of the freedoms that I think a lot of people take for granted here, because not everyone is free like American citizens are. You say the wrong thing some of the countries, you're never seen again. So that's what my takeaway is. Just remember, and if you see a veteran, go, and especially like guys like Royce. I mean, God, I love Royce. I can sit there and talk with him all day. And the guy's 96, I think, 96. And he's like the ever-ready bunny. He just, I mean, he is awesome to talk to. And every time I walk away from, unfortunately, I haven't been able to see him too much because of COVID. But just if you ever get a chance to talk to a veteran, I think you will be amazed at the stories that they have to tell.
Yeah, this must be, I was thinking about, as a filmmaker myself, what it must be like to be talking to all these people. I mean, what was your understanding prior to making these documentaries, understanding of the history, understanding of or even relationships with these veterans, and what is it now? How have you grown through this process?
Well, I still have a absolute utmost respect for them. Here I'm 61 years old, and I have a hard time even calling by their first name, because I grew up, I know these guys for over 50 years, and I always call them sir, or the rank or whatever. And to be with them and talk to them, it's just, it's amazing. And unfortunately, here's one for you, Jodi, because you were part of the Thud Pilots, the first film. 3 of those people that were in that movie are already passed. So again, it shows, time keeps on going. So we, again, I kind of just want to get these, stories out.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And again, thank you so much for, I know the hard work it takes to make a film. So to make many films, it looks like you're speeding up, not slowing down there. After we spoke recently and you mentioned how many films you finished during COVID, whereas most people just stop doing anything. It's pretty incredible. Colonel Viscara, when I was doing some research, I found a quote from you. I believe this was from you, that said, "They say flying combat is hours and hours of boredom interrupted by 10 minutes of stark terror." That hit me. I was like, because to me, the idea of flying a supersonic plane just that alone sounds like stark terror. What's that experience? Tell us a little bit more about that experience. And then how do you feel about it now, looking backwards?
Well, first of all, I feel very fortunate that I was able to do what I did do. The flying bug bit me at age 6. And I was very fortunate that from that age to be able to achieve my dream. And it wasn't only just to fly, but I wanted to fly fighters. I was greatly influenced by my older brother. I had a brother that was 15 years older than me that was a fighter pilot in World War II. And my dad, he went off to war when I was quite young. And my dad didn't want me to forget him. So he'd say, "Now, don't forget, you have another brother." And I'd say, "Well, where is he?" And he says, "Oh, he's halfway around the world." And I'd say, "Well, what's he doing there?" He says, "He's fighting the bad guys." "Well, how's he fighting the bad guys?" "He flies an airplane." Ooh, that sounded interesting. That sounded good. So that's how I got bit by the flying bug. So again, I was very fortunate to be able to achieve my dream of flying fighters.
Yeah, in an article I was reading, you had said, you wanted to fly that specific plane, the F-100 Super Saver. And how do you feel about that plane now, looking back?
Well,
sounded like it had a lot of work, that one.
The audience are probably going to be surprised to hear this, but I didn't realize at the time, that's why I wanted to fly, because I was the hottest thing available coming out of pilot training. Not until after I retired and have gone back into a lot further age-wise, did I come to realize and find out that that airplane had the highest accident rate of all the fighters in the inventory. In fact, there was a 38% accident rate. I didn't realize it was that dangerous of airplane when I was flying it. It's probably a good thing I didn't, because that'd make me awful nervous, you know. But on behalf of the F-100, as difficult as airplane it was to fly, the one thing I really appreciate about the airplane is that once you mastered it, if you could fly the 100, you could fly anything, because it made a good pilot out of you.
Yeah, that's, I was reading, you were talking about that as well. That to me is incredible. I mean, just the desire, I could see the excitement as a kid looking into that, but then to actually go through it and not just like for fun, but in like real life or death situations is incredible. So, you know, from someone who is not a veteran, I just hats off for the follow through and the commitment and your service to us here in the United States. What's everyone working on next? I'm curious. Mark, I know you have 15 films coming down the pipeline, I'm sure.
I'm in post right now with Thud Pilots 2, because when that came out in 2018, the first feedback I got was, okay, where's 2? We want more. We want more of these stories. So I started the filming in 2019. We wrapped it up, and now we're in post, and hopefully this summer it'll be released. And there's a couple other projects going. You know, I've been tapped to do the Icons of Carrier Aviation, and then of course I got contacted a couple months ago from a good friend of mine who was involved with Top Gun 2 Maverick. And he was close friends with the director and the producer, and they said they loved working with the military, wanted another military story, and he had seen the movie Forgotten Hero that I did, which is Royce Williams' story, and that was made. You know, it's a short, but it was really made as a proof of concept to get the funding for a biopic. So you know, he said, "Can I get the script? Can I get the proof of concept? I want to pass it on to these guys and pitch it to them." So we're keeping our fingers crossed. I mean, to me, you know, that one, I wouldn't mind just bowing out of it and saying, here you go. Here's, you know, because he gave Speed and Angels, my production company, his life rights to the story. And we made a feature film screenplay. And, you know, so just if there's anyone out there thinking that, well, we want to do it, okay, here you go. Take it. I want the story told. I want the feature film made, especially since he's 96. I want to see him at the red carpet. I want to see him in these after Q&As, you know, and stuff. So,
oh, fingers crossed. Thank you. That would be incredible. And you know, I've been working with you now for several years, so it's just wonderful to see the growth and the progress. Mr. Mollison, what's up next for you? Do you have another film in the pipeline here?
Yeah, we're working on 4 more films, and we're also doing live Q&As where we bring the veteran and then bring the world in to ask them questions, as well as creating educators kits that will be distributed locally to schools.
Oh, great. You guys need to work. We need to get you guys working together here. We need a John Mollison and Mark Viscara collaboration. Colonel Vic, any last thoughts? Any last, I know you said you're not writing your 3rd book, or else, you know, the wife wouldn't love that, but what's next for you? And any final thoughts to wrap up our panel here to our audience?
Well, I say I'm not writing a 3rd book, although I'd like to. You know, the 2 books that you referenced that I did write, they're autobiographies. The book I would like to write would be about my brother who flew in World War II, but that would be more of a novel, because I would have to put his emotions, his thoughts, which, you know, I would be guessing what they were. But that kind of interests me, that it'd be a new approach to writing that I'd have to take. So you may still get a third book out of me.
Yay, well, that would be wonderful. Well, we loved having you here. We love having you as part of the festival. We look forward to work. You know, this is a community and family that we've worked to build here in the GI Film Festival. So we look forward to looking at work that you have in the future as well. Of course, we'd love to continue to have Mark back and see what John is up to in the future. And so thank you all for joining us. Today's the last day of the GI Film Festival San Diego. Access to rent the films as a video on demand option continues, however, through next week. So you still have time to check out the films that were part of GI Film Festival San Diego. You can secure rentals for anything you might have missed during the festival at our website, gifilmfestivalsd.org. And thank you to all involved for making this virtual festival possible, including my fellow advisory committee members, my organization and team from the Film Consortium San Diego, our filmmakers, our festival sponsors and partners, the California Arts Council, Scatina Daniels Communication, National University, Task and Purpose, and the San Diego International Airport Arts Program. In the email reminder you got for the screening, there was a link to our attendee survey, and it just takes a few minutes of your time. We'd really appreciate if you could fill it out, as your feedback will help us make the 2022 GI Film Festival San Diego better than ever. Thank you all, and a big round of applause for our filmmakers. Cheers and good night.
Thank you, Jodi.